Hello, welcome to this Crypto Professor analysis video of Ripple, or XRP. If you've been watching the price of Ripple over the past 72 hours, you'll have noticed that it has done a phenomenally bullish movement, ascending 120% in 72 hours, reaching a peak of around about 73 cents on Tuesday, and starting that ascent at around about 30 cents on Friday last week. So a huge movement for Ripple. What is next? Well, I'm looking at the analysis in this video to try and determine whether this is a breakout for the long term for Ripple, or whether we're going to have a period of consolidation where the price drops, and therefore it may be worth exiting out of Ripple for the short term to buy more as the price descends. And I'm going to use a range of technical analysis tools, including one new tool that I haven't used before, in order to tell what's going to happen with a higher degree of certainty. Nothing has actually changed in terms of market capitalization. All that's happened is the price has increased dramatically. I believe the price has increased dramatically for fundamental reasons, with the Flare network, which is launching through Ripple, which effectively creates a brand new token called the Spark token. Now, the Flare network is effectively a smart contract protocol, but for Ripple. Okay, so obviously Ethereum has its smart contract machine, EVM, Ethereum virtual machine. It's going to be used on Ripple. So you're going to be able to use the Ethereum virtual machine on the Ripple network. So Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, obviously thinks this is a fantastic idea. He's quoted as saying, "From my point of view, the Flare network is combining the best of XRP, very fast settlement, Ethereum, smart contracts, and Avalanche for consensus, which helps extend XRP's utility and allows developers to create smart contracts for new use cases like lending and DeFi." So basically this extends Ripple's or XRP's capabilities in the crypto space. You're now going to be able to write software that is able to operate on the Ripple network, and it's going to allow Ripple to start to do new things like lending and DeFi that perhaps it wasn't able to before. So effectively, it's a massive upgrade for XRP. One of the reasons I think that the price has escalated so quickly is because suddenly we're going to have this new Spark token, and Ripple are going to give that away for free on a one-to-one basis for everyone who owns Ripple. So if you own one Ripple, you'll get one Spark. If you own 1,000 Ripple, you'll get 1,000 Spark. And they're going to be valued at $0.01 US. Now, I probably suppose that they're going to have quite a price fluctuation. It's essentially an ICO, but instead of having capital come into the market, they are creating this value from the Ripple network itself. So there'll be 45 billion new Spark tokens created to match the 45 billion Ripple tokens that are created already. Okay, so they're effectively creating an entirely new cryptocurrency out of this that is going to be an upgrade to Ripple. Quite what this does to the Ripple network, I'm not quite sure. I don't think they're going to be abandoning it. I just think it's a dilution slightly of the core consensus model of the Ripple network itself. But let's have a look at that price action. This upcoming 45 billion token airdrop is one of the reasons why retail is pumping XRP. So if you hold XRP on certain exchanges, you will automatically get the airdrop. And people have been moving vast quantities of Ripple around and also buying into it, probably taking profits from Bitcoin and Ethereum, which has obviously taken big movements recently. And that is why the price has pumped. So let's look at that for a second in graph form. We can see that this is the exchange data. So these are the number of Ripple that are transacted over exchanges, and we can see this goes all the way back to mid 2018. Now there are two key events here that happened. There was this price spike that happened back in September 2018, where the price did a very similar movement to what it has done today, or over the last 48 hours. And then we have this one here, which is just at the start of the graph, because obviously it's very, very recent indeed. Notice the volume is slightly different. It's 75% less than the previous price action. But if we look at the market cap, we can see that this is actually larger. in terms of market cap movement than the previous spike was. And I'm going to be analysing the previous spike and its price data a little bit later on in this video to see whether we can actually tell what is likely to happen around the corner for this particular price movement. The dates are quite important. The 12th of December is when the Spark token is going to be airdropped. So I would expect the price to continue to ricochet around these higher prices until that point, because no one's going to be selling vast quantities of Ripple ahead of the 12th if they're aware of the Flare network being launched. However, people are still going to be buying in because, you know, Ripple is still around, it's less than $1. So comparatively speaking, compared with Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's relatively inexpensive. So I'd expect the price now to stay around these regions between 50 cents and 70 cents in US dollar terms from now until the 12th. And then following the 12th, I would expect a descent in price as everyone switches towards the Spark token and attention focuses on that, where Ripple slowly starts to die back down to previous aforementioned levels. And I mentioned in my previous video as well that Ripple has these periodic big spark movements, to coin a tone there, where we have massive influx of new capital and the price responds accordingly, and then we have these sell-offs, and I'm going to isolate where I think the price is going to drop to in order for you to trade it theoretically and get a better return overall. Okay, so the market cap effectively increased from around about 11 billion on the first week of November to $35 billion. And that is a 3.5 times increase in a very, very short space of time, about 36 hours or so. So naturally, the price has ascended very rapidly. Now, people have been selling. We can see here, these are the previous resistance levels. We had a strong sell-off and a period of hesitation around the 60 cent price, which is the previous historic resistance level. And there's a liquidity zone here. Then we had a breakthrough shortly following that as the price decided it actually wanted to continue. And we went to this very, very long-term resistance point and liquidity zone at around the 80 cent region. We broke a little bit higher, went towards 80 cents. So we're now ricocheting around these two levels, and I expect that to continue for the foreseeable future. I'm going to be zooming in on that in a bit. My previous video was recorded around this date, where we were just testing this upper echelon of this historic bearish trend. And we obviously broke through that very reliably and are now somewhere up here. But this is not unprecedented. This is just what Ripple does from time to time. And I do expect the price to coalesce and drop in line with the technical analysis that I will be showing you in a little while. So let's zoom in on this and look at some actual prices. So here we are. This is my estimation of what the price is going to do next. So we've had the huge movements, and this is a day chart. I would now expect the price to stay between 50 and 70 as isolated in this channel here for the next week or two, definitely until the 12th, when the Flare network is being airdropped and the Spark token is being airdropped. Following that, I would actually expect a sell-off for Ripple, as one, people focus on the Spark token and what it's actually going to be worth long term, and two, as people don't really see a need to hold Ripple anymore and want to lock in their profits. So right now there are a lot of people who've been holding Ripple for a very, very long time and they haven't had the opportunity to sell. They may now sell, but they don't want to because they want to keep their assets until the airdrop is complete. So people selling here are effectively only trading it. There's no people who are exiting, or very few people who are exiting the long-term project because of not wanting to get the Flare token. Okay, it's free money after all. Majority of people are probably going to try and get it, and only the uninitiated or the people who don't know about it will be selling vast quantities of Ripple here. So these are all traders. This is all trading volume effectively. We saw nice trading volume at this liquidity zone, where we paused for about a day, about 24 hours or so, and we bounced between those regions. Then we set off again and hit a peak of almost 80 cents. I would now expect this price to tail off and perhaps reach 50 cents by the middle of December, then 44 cents ultimately. I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think we're going to see 35 cents again for Ripple at the moment. There's just too much bullishness about it because obviously people have suddenly, it's come alive again. Back when I recorded my previous video, before any of this happened, you could ask the majority of cryptocurrency traders and they would say that Ripple is basically a dead project. It did definitely catch people out, that movement where we broke the intra-year bearishness. So suddenly Ripple's got a bit more life in it, and therefore people are very much more willing to buy it, particularly as it sells off. So I'd expect people to be dollar cost averaging all the way down to around about 44 cents. We might get an extension to 34 cents, and then if this all blows over entirely, as it did back in September 2018, we will see it correct all the way back down to 30 cents theoretically, but that remains to be seen. With the breakout of Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think that is unlikely. I think we'll do a standard correction here, perhaps to the 0.618, and then set off again to the races, perhaps even to chase the next big impulse up to 94 cents or even over $1 to $1.13 in time. But that's only if the project continues to be as bullish and as exciting as traders now believe it to be. So let's compare and contrast what actually happened in September 2018 with the present day. So we can see that this general bearish trend corrected, and then suddenly we had a breakout with bullish engulfing, and before we knew it, we're up at 75 cents. We ricocheted around the mid 50s for a little while following it, before ultimately dropping down to the 0.6 retrace at 44 cents, and then bouncing around there for a little while before ultimately correcting all the way back down to 12 cents in March 2020, and it's been bearish since this point overall. Today we had a lengthy bearish trend channel which was actually kind of oscillating. We did have a little bit of bullishness in a response to the March 2020 Black Thursday, but that's only just because the price corrected back to previous resistance levels. We did have a breakout, but it was much more gradual this time. It took a little bit longer. There wasn't this huge bullish engulfing. Notice I'm watching these on the same time frame. Then the price started escalating, and before we knew it, we were up at this 44 cent region, a similar region to here. We then broke through that, got up to the 60 cent region, and then broke through that again. So there were 3 resistance level breaks here. These red lines are where I believe the price is going to oscillate for a little while, testing higher regions, because there will be fewer people selling than in this September 2018 example, just because of the Spark token and wanting to get that airdrop. I suspect that ultimately without that airdrop, we would correct down to the 50 cent or even the 44 cent region. Notice how these moving averages on the 4-hour are nicely coinciding with the sell-off regions. This is the 0.5, the 0.618, and the 0.78 here. Okay, so ultimately in a normal market condition where bearishness can be bearishness without having people hodl the tokens for the Spark airdrop, we would descend to these levels. However, I believe that these 2 red lines are going to be indicative of where the price stays until at least the 12th of December. After the 12th of December, I fully expect to capitulate down to these levels or even lower, potentially, as people shift their focus over to the Spark token and generally Ripple is allowed to do what it wants to. However, if the Spark token goes extremely well and there are a lot of partners announced and generally things are looking very, very favorable for XRP because of its upgrade to now bridge with the Ethereum network, then the price could definitely break out of the 75 cent region and go to the aforementioned regions that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, namely the 0.94 and $1.13 price regions. So what does all this look like in terms of RSI? Well, obviously RSI is going to be off the charts just because the movement has been huge over the past couple of days. On a week chart, because this movement bisected a week, we've actually got 2 bullish engulfing candles at the moment. This one having sold off around about half, so that indicates there are a lot of people taking profits. Notice it is coinciding with my red trend channel here and is actually at the bottom of the trend channel. On a week chart, the RSI is at 86, so very, very high indeed. So under normal circumstances, I would expect a correction of sorts from a movement like this. On a day chart, things get a little bit more murky. We have sold off and the RSI is coming back down in line and congruent with the price action, currently 80 on the day charts. The lower time frames, it gets even messier because we are now back in normal territory for an RSI, being around about the 56 level here, so it could go either way. As I say, I expected to bounce around these trend channel regions here. It may dip temporarily lower, but theoretically the volume should buy up because people want to hold good value Ripple to get their hands on the Spark token on the 12th of December. Let's look at another metric. This is ADX, or a trend analysis indicator. Notice we are already starting to turn over. This green line is about to cross the red line, and if that happens, then the trend technically turns bearish. I don't think that's going to happen. This is on a 4 hour. Let's look at a day. We're still very powerful on the day. So this is why I believe we're ultimately going to bounce off this red line and stay in this channel until the 12th of December. On the lower time frames, obviously things have shifted. You'll notice that we've actually crossed over on the ADX on a 1 hour, but the lower time frames are more unreliable and generally I don't tend to use them. But notice that we are now bouncing around this EMA, which is the 50-hour EMA, with the 200-hour EMA coming up nicely at the 0.5 retrace. On a week chart for ADX, yeah, extremely bullish, down up here about 58 or so, but the trend is actually fairly minor at around 24 or so, with 25 being strong. So we're just crossing the trend line there on the ADX, but again it is ferociously bullish. But then that is a week chart where we've had two massive green candles. So let's now examine the MACD, and as I say, we have crossed over on a 4 hour. We are showing volume, selling volume here as people take their profits, and I believe that these are mostly traders who will ultimately buy back their Ripple at a lower price, so effectively they are scalping. On a day chart, nothing really untoward. Bullishness all the way, bounce from this red line I believe, or slightly under it, and then ricochet around that price for a little while as people either trade or scalp. But ultimately the volume is still definitely there for the laggards who are going to get to the party late essentially, and buy their Ripple largely after the price has already bolted, but they want their chance to get the Spark token, so they will still buy. On a 1 hour, RSI firmly crossed over. I'm seeing a lot of divergence here. Obviously the price is oscillating between these two channels, but the MACD is actually descending comfortably, but still looking positive and still in positive territory overall. So on a 1 hour, once again bouncing off the 50-day or 50-hour EMA, with the 200 coming comfortably at the 0.5 retrace. Now I'm going to use a new technical analysis tool that I haven't yet used in any one of my videos, and these are Bollinger Bands. Bollinger Bands are used in order to calculate the volatility in terms of the standard deviation. Now you don't really need to worry about that or understand what it actually means, but basically the top line is where the price should be if a trend is continuing and very bullish in nature. The middle line is the average or median, and the bottom line is if a trend is going to reverse theoretically, or if it's going to be bearish over the course of the next couple of days. So what we've seen here is a period of compression where the Bollinger Bands get nice and tight together. This indicates low volatility, and therefore we should see a breakout of sorts when Bollinger Bands get close together like this, where they become narrow. When the price action started to turn bullish, we saw it break out a couple of times from this channel, which is exactly what you would expect in a volatility based price movement that we saw, where the price ascended 120% in a very, very short space of time. Notice that as soon as we got up here to this intra-year resistance, we sold off, hit the median, and then bounced again. And now we're actually threatening to move lower. We're actually threatening to be bearish in the very short term. Again, this being an hour chart, take it with a pinch of salt. As I say, I expect the price to ricochet between the 55 and 70 cent region from here on in until the 12th when the Spark airdrop happens. Let's look at a 4 hour. Once again, yep, we are at the median now, so there is every possibility that we will ricochet back up here, or we could break lower, but no bearishness really, apart from the fact that we've moved to the average price on a 4 hour chart. And once again, you can see slightly escaping the outside of these areas, as is typical with Bollinger Bands for a dramatic price increase. On a day chart, yeah, we're still way outside. We've just crossed over into what is considered to be normal territory on a day chart. A lot of the price action happened outside the Bollinger Band, so that is considered exemplary, or at least 2 standard deviations away from normal market activity. And once again, look how close these were before the price action move. This is why the majority of people believe the market to be dead or not really doing anything, but astute Ripple traders who are hodling would have got the benefit of owning this for the long term. We are nowhere near the median price, which is around about 36 on a day chart for Bollinger Bands, and we have no sign probably of correcting to that over the long term at the moment, especially not before the 12th of December. But watching this carefully, we theoretically could oscillate between the inside and outside of this Bollinger Band for the foreseeable future until at least mid-December. And on a week, it's probably not really worth looking at. Yeah, we've got too little data basically to work on a week. We're just escaping these Bollinger Bands here with 2 huge green candles. Excellent. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this analysis video of XRP. Obviously, everything happened extremely quickly, and I wanted to give you an update on what I think. I believe the price is going to oscillate between 55 cents and 70 cents over the course of the next 2 weeks, while people hodl and trade and scalp their way to owning more Ripple in order to own more Spark tokens. Following the 12th of December, I would expect a standard correction back down perhaps to 45 to 40 USD cents. There on in, it all depends on what happens with the Spark token and with the sentiment behind Ripple itself. If it's bullish and if there are lots of developments and lots of fundamental drivers pushing Ripple into the spotlight, then the price could move up to 94 to $1.13. If it's bearish, then we'll get exactly what we got back in September 2018 and a drop back down to 30 cents or so, and regaining that historic trend of having a massive spike and having a corresponding sell-off. Remember, we still do have 55 billion Ripple to be released by Ripple Labs at some point in the future. So it's not like Bitcoin, where the actual supply is decreasing over time. They can theoretically release these tokens whenever they wish. And with a price spike such as this, it gives them perfect opportunity to flood the market with more Ripple tokens. However, hope you've enjoyed this analysis video. As always, happy trading. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to get $25 of CRO completely for free, please sign up to Crypto.com using our referral link in the description on this video. The Crypto Professor likes feedback. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it. If you'd like more of the same, please don't forget to subscribe. Or if you have questions, please post them in the comments and I'll endeavour to answer them for you. Thanks for watching.